Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the 46th Annual General Meeting of Cleveland Scout Council. And today we're at Synthonia Headquarters, Greenwood Road, Billingham, and via YouTube. Now, obviously in these extenuating circumstances, this is probably the smallest attendance we've had in person, and yet it's one of the largest that we've actually had, with over 100 of you watching on YouTube. So I hope you've all had your Sunday lunch, or you're planning on having it afterwards, and really I don't mind if you're having it now. I'd like to introduce the top table to us, and first of all we've got our County Commissioner, Andy Wolfe. I'm acting as the County Chair for the first part of this meeting. We have the County Secretary, Sue Dunn, who's in France, and we've got the County Treasurer with us, Michael Ward. I hope you've all visited the county website to see this afternoon's agenda, the minutes of last year's meeting, the annual accounts and the annual report. And I'd like to give my thanks to Anne Jewett for producing the annual report, as she has done for a number of years now. So that's the welcome. And we now move to item 2, which is the opening prayer from Reverend Paul Hargreaves, our county chaplain, who's at home.
Hello everyone. Those present in person at the AGM and those present virtually, thanks to today's technology, which allows us to take part in meetings such as this from wherever we happen to be. You are all very welcome. As we reflect on the last year, we call to mind the many challenges that COVID-19 has created in our daily lives, at home, at work, at school, and within Scouting. But we also call to mind what we have done to meet those challenges and overcome them. Human beings, especially those connected to Scouting, of course, are a resourceful bunch. As we plan for the coming year, we ask God to bless our time together and that He gives us the grace to carry out what we plan with joy and conviction. May each of us be a source of encouragement to one another as we try to do our best, not just for ourselves, but for all those around us. We ask all of this in God's name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Paul, for those words. Item 3 are apologies for absence. And I'd like to ask our County Secretary, Sue, at home in France, for any apologies received for this meeting. We are having a technical problem there in that she's not there in France. Well, she is somewhere in France, but she's not actually there. We'll try that in a moment. We'll move on to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes of the 45th AGM. Now, as I said at the beginning there, these have been available on the county website for you to read, and also thanks to our electronic voting system. Then I'd like to thank Elliot at this point for putting all that into place over the past few weeks. So thank you very much to Elliot. We have those, and the 45th Annual General Meeting minutes have been proposed as a true record by Elliot Bradburn and seconded by Jane Rose, and according to the voting system, the vast majority of the people out there as well. So thank you very much. So they are carried. We now move to the item 5, the annual report and the accounts. And I'd like you to receive and consider the annual report and accounts. And I'd ask our County Treasurer, Michael, to say a few words.
Thank you. I'd like to begin. Is it working? Yeah. I'd like to begin by thanking the auditor for a clean bill of health for the accounts, which is always a very nice way to start a presentation on the accounts. Looking back, 2019 was a very normal and, in accounting terms, almost a boring year, unlike the current one. Overall, reserves were broadly stable in the year, but that does mask some ups and downs on the various specific reserves. Looking at those, the water team reserves fell, but that was on a planned basis as they moved to their new premises farther down the river in Yarm. The climbing reserve fell, again on a planned basis as we renewed the climbing equipment and implemented a new policy for its renewal in the future. County Camp was very successfully held and made a small surplus, and that increased the reserves. And the county's overall free reserves actually increased very slightly as well. The concern in 2019 continued about Ravengill and its income. However, that in the current year has been addressed quite significantly and substantially. The main issue for the accounts of 2019 is a technical one of when we submitted the accounts to the auditor, did the executive consider that we were a going concern? And the technical definition of that is, did we think that we could survive for another 12 months from there? And largely due to two very fortuitous bits of good luck, we felt that we could do that. Those bits of good luck were a £10,000 grant from the government and the absolutely spectacular success of the online badge sale for Ravengill, which enabled us to state very categorically that yes, we were a going concern, at least for the moment. I'd like to thank everybody that has read the accounts. There isn't a test on them, and I was very grateful to see that you've all approved them online. But that's it, thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, for those. And thanks as well to the auditors as well for auditing those accounts. Now, I've been in touch with Sue while Michael was doing that, and we do have our apologies for today's meeting, and they're received from Val Railton, Doug Corbin, Michael Walsh, Andrew Devereux, Dave Yardley and Nick White. So thank you very much for that, Sue. Now moving on, we need to ask for the acceptance of the reports and accounts. And again, via the electronic voting system, I can inform you that they have indeed been approved. Many thanks. And now I hand over to our County Commissioner, Andy.
Thanks, Ian. I'd just like to say thank you for those words you've said so far. I'd like to thank David, who was my predecessor as County Commissioner, for the great work he's done in handing over to me a successful county. And I'd just like to thank both Ian and Jeff, who've both done sterling work in running as chair over some difficult times, and just say that Jeff will be sadly missed by all members of the community for scouting. I'd like to appoint Frank Rose as our new county chair for the coming year, and we know that that has already been pre-approved by the votes that we've already sent out, and so I can hand over the rest of the meeting to Frank as our new county chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Before we continue, can I just say to everybody who's approved my appointment, thanks very much for that confidence, and I will aim to continue the good work, as Andy has already mentioned, of both Ian and Jeff Cox for my tenure of this office. So to continue, the next item of agenda is to elect the County Secretary. And we have one nomination, who is Sue Dunn, who's been proposed by Andy Wolfe, seconded by Ian Railton. And again, by the electronic voting, that has been approved. The next is to appoint our County Treasurer. And again, one nomination, Michael Ward, who has been proposed by Ian Railton, seconded by Andy Wolfe, and again has been approved by the electronic voting. Item 7. Approve the nominations to the County Scout Council. The names of those nominated are listed on the reverse of the agenda. nominations of the County Commissioner and the County Chair to the County Scout Council, and those names are sorry, just lost me train of thought there. Right, so the County Scout Council. Right, I'm back. And those names are Val Cullen, who's the County Commissioner for Girl Guiding in Cleveland, Ben Fountain, who's a member of the 3rd Gisborne Group Executive, Bob Hodgson, who's the Chief Warden for the Ravengill Campsite, and Val Railton, who's a member of Middlesbrough SAS. And again, those have been approved. The next item, 7B, nominations of the districts to the County Scout Council, and those names are from Tees Valley North, Mark Anderson, from Stockton Thornbury District, Pauline Hine, from Middlesbrough District, Stuart Caveney, from East Cleveland, Alex Silver, until the district AGM or the 31st of December, and Redcar Eston, again to be announced at their district AGM on the 6th of the 10th. The next is the co-options to the Scout Council, and there are no co-options at present. Item 8, appointment of members to the Executive Committee. And again, these are listed on the reverse of the agenda. The nominations of the County Commissioner to the County Executive. And those nominations are right, they are Val Cullen, Ian Railton, Peter Cheney, who's the District Commissioner for Middlesbrough, and one which is to be announced at a later date, and that will be the County Youth Commissioner. And they again have received approval. The next is 8B, elect members nominated by the districts to the County Executive. And they are Tees Valley North, Nick White, Stockton Thornaby District, Neil Scott, Middlesbrough, Paul Belmont, East Cleveland, Paul Cawthorne, until the district AGM or the 31st of December, and Redcar Eston, again to be announced at the district AGM on the 6th of October. Those again have been approved. And 8C, co-options to the County Executive, and they are the County Appointments Panel Chair, which at present is myself, and I will continue in that role for the time being. The Ravengill Campsite Management Committee, Karen Asquith. Safety Advisor, Andrew Burrows. And the lay member, the Reverend Paul Hargreaves. And again, they have been approved. And now, item 9 is to elect the county representatives to the Council of the Scout Association. And Andy, the County Commissioner, proposes that the county representative to the Council of the Scout Association be myself and the young person's representative, which is yet to be decided. And again, those have been approved. Item 10, approval of the Finance and Ravengill subcommittees for 2020-2021. And this will take place at the first meeting of the new Executive Committee. Item 11, presentations by the County Commissioner. And firstly, I'll hand over to Andy regards the Going for Growth certificates for 2019.
Have you got the names? You want to do them?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. So these groups have grown, and this information was taken from the 2020 census, and we'll do it by districts. In Middlesbrough, first Nunthorpe, Redcar, Eston, Whale Hill, Stockton, Thornaby and District, first Egglescliffe, first Ingleby Barwick, and second Hartburn. In East Cleveland, first Broughton, first Gisborough LGO, first Loftus, first Saltburn, first Skelton, and third Gisborough. In Tees Valley North, second Billingham, fourth Billingham, and Synthonia. Explorer units, Hydra ESU, Stockton, Thornaby and District Young Leaders Unit, Fairfield Pirates, Fairfield Vikings, and Egglescliffe Aliens, and the Scout Active Support Unit, Middlesbrough District, and they all grew during 2019. So many congratulations to those. I do have all your certificates, and normally we would give them out at the AGM, but we'll make arrangements to come and deliver them somehow in the coming few weeks. Thank you.
Right, thanks Ian. And the next item is Commissioner commendations. And I believe again Ian's got those with him to announce.
Thanks, Frank. Normally at the AGM we only concentrate on 2019, but as we know that 2020 has been an exceptional year, hence why we're meeting as we are. But one of the fantastic things that really must be recognised at this meeting today is actually the absolutely fantastic work done by Stuart Featherston and Sam Lee on organising Cleveland's first online campfire, which attracted over 11,000 views worldwide. When it first set up, Stuart's idea was for it just to be a group thing. Then he moved it to being for the county, and then opened it up to the world, and literally I watched it that night, and there were people from all over the world that were watching. That wasn't the end of it though, because obviously Stuart had this mad idea to put together to give people and sell badges. So people ordered them, and he had to send out an amazing number of badges. But in the end, he said that the money raised from those badges would go towards a new campfire circle at Ravengill. Well, Stuart and Sam put them all together, they received the orders, they packaged them up, and on top of their full-time jobs, they sent them out all over the world. And they raised, as you heard Michael say earlier on, £20,000. So you can imagine what this campfire is going to look like at Ravengill in the future. But many, many congratulations from us to Stuart and Sam for that tremendous amount of work that you did earlier in this year. So to reward that, I am awarding you both the Commissioner's Commendation Award. So I have your certificates here in front of me. There they are. Sadly though, we haven't got the badges because they have just come back into stock. I got an email from Scout Shops this week to say that. But I will get the certificates and the badges to you as soon as I possibly can. But many, many thanks to you both from the county for your amazing work earlier this year.
Right, thanks for that, Ian. And now the next item, and I can hand over to the County Commissioner for this one because nobody else is going to do it, and that is Andy's presentation of the vision for the future. Andy.
Thank you, Frank. Just want to say quickly, 2019 was a fantastic year for Cleveland Scouts. 2020 has been incredibly challenging, and I appreciate the hard work that you've all put in as leaders to make 2020 a continued success. It's tested our leaders and our managers too, that the absolute limit, and I want to thank everybody for going the extra mile and keeping Scouting running in some really tough conditions. But I want to have a look now at what we want to do for 2021 and what the vision is moving forward. I think I've looked at, I met lots of people, we've met lots of Zoom meetings in terms of meeting me, and I want to give everybody in the county a vision of what I think Cleveland Scouts looks like in 2021 and beyond. And so therefore I'm going to talk about my vision and our presentation for what we want Cleveland Scouts to look like. A national institution, and therefore our standards should be of a national level. Parents expect high expectations of our leaders, they expect the community and the law all expect that we deliver high quality scouting across both the county, the districts and nationally. And therefore we need to work towards that as a professional organisation. So I looked at that along our 4 pillars of scouting, around programme, around people, around perception and around the protect. And the first thing we're going to look at for that one is around the programme. So what will our programme look like in 2021? And what do we think about our programme in 2021? So it's youth shaped and it delivers a high quality programme. And in 2021 we're going to look at what we can deliver both in person and online, because we're going to have to go with a blended model for most of the early part of 2021 in terms of both online programme and face-to-face programmes, and how we can do that and how we can deliver that without causing additional stress and pressure to our leaders. So for that we need to look at focusing on top awards. A successful programme will deliver top awards in each section. And because of that, I've tasked our ACCs with giving top awards as one of their performance indicators. So our ACCs for sections will look at driving top awards for our sections. Because a good programme creates top awards, and a good programme creates top awards will also drive our growth and will mean that we come back stronger than we did before COVID. And I'm very well aware that COVID is a challenge that we need to overcome, that we need to try and keep our young people coming back to scouting all the way through until we can go back to green status. As part of that, I want to look at appointing a county youth commissioner to help deliver that youth-shaped programme. And over the coming months between now and Christmas, I'll be looking at putting out for nominations for a county youth commissioner that can help me deliver that programme youth-shaped. So please stay aware, and I will be delivering more information about looking for somebody who can deliver that youth commissioner's role. So what else does the programme do? Well, the programme needs to build and transfer to each section. I want sections that have the capacity to deliver strong programmes. I want groups that have the capacity to deliver strong programmes. And how do we ensure that we have that capacity? Well, we need leaders that are knowledgeable about their specialisms, things that they are good at, things that they are passionate about, they'll pass on to those young people. But we also need leaders that have the time and the capacity to focus on producing good programme. And therefore we need to look at how we can release leaders to concentrate on sections and not be doing 5-6 roles within their section, their group, their district and their county. And we need leaders who can lead and help with a wider role. And because of that, we need to look at having bigger pools of support to pull from. And the keys to this are, every group should have a GSL, a chair, a treasurer and a secretary. One clear person with one clear role, rather than people trying to do multiple roles and not being able to deliver because of the pressures of delivering each of those roles separately. And if that can't be achieved, then we need to look at support from our neighbours. We need to look at developing networks of groups, networks of districts that can work collaboratively together. Every group needs to have a clear succession plan of where those young people are moving on to. So if you have a beaver section, how are we making sure that they move on to cubs? If you've got a cub section, how are they moving on to scouts? Where are they moving on to in terms of explorers? What are we doing to prevent those young people from slipping through the net between those key transition points? And about collaboration. So it's also about perception. Perception is one of the key points. So we need to make sure that scouting is understood, it's visible, it's trusted, and it's respected, not just within the scouting community, but in a wider role and within wider society. So how are we going to do that? Well, we need to look at growth. And growth is difficult, particularly if we've got falling birth rate. And I'm fully aware that birth rates are falling, but we need to look at how we develop it within the community and in terms of participation. So in terms of county, we look at us compared to every other county in the region. And the graph you can see is around uptake of young people, the young people that are operating within our counties. And at the top is North Yorkshire. 6.5% of the young people between 6 and 18 take part in scouting. Cleveland's is 2.5% as a county. So how can we deliver that? How can we make more of our young people? There are more young people out there who can access our county. So how do we deliver that? We need to look at where we can grow and the areas we can grow. So we look at an area like Middlesbrough in terms of that Berwick Hills, Thorntree, South Bank areas where we don't have any kind of scouting input at the minute. And I'm not suggesting that we go and open groups left, right and centre, because historically we know that we open it, we get support from region, we open a group and then that group doesn't work, and within 18 months it closes and folds up because we don't have the support. But what we need to do is look at how we can develop that support and make those areas knowledgeable about scouting, and what can we do to increase those areas, particularly around areas of deprivation and areas where our ethnic minority society is not part of scouting and scouting is not part of that society. So how can we develop those? In terms of other perceptions, internally, Ravengill's always kind of been seen across the county as a bit of a liability, a bit of a financial liability, and how can we increase that? And that work's already being done. There's a strong management committee that is now looking at a robust action plan and a promotion of the venue to wider audiences, and we think we can turn Ravengill into a success, into a financial success, and into a successful campsite that can compete with other counties to deliver quality service and quality events. So what else can we look at in terms of perception? What else was perceived to be a concern around the county? And when we looked at this earlier on in the year, communication was always seen as being a weak point for Cleveland. People would always say, we don't know what's going on, we don't know what's happening, we haven't been told, we always find out after the event. And for that I've got to thank Ian, who's done an awful lot of work taking over as Acting County Commissioner for this, and which I'm going to continue in my role and continue with Ian to try and deliver that communication role. So we've tried to extend our communication streams so that you get bombarded with information rather than no information at all. And Ian's going to continue his Facebook Live information. We've set up a WhatsApp group called Team Cleveland that develops information and shares information, and if you're not part of that, then please ask and we'll add you to that link. We've got the Cleveland Courier that's going out monthly, and we've developed Zoom meetings, which is probably one of the good things that have come out of COVID. Had we asked, in January, can we go digital? Can we look at communicating in a digital forum? We'd have said no. We'd have said no, we need to meet. And yet, today is a prime example. With 100 people online watching this, it's the highest number we've ever had attending an AGM. We now need to use that as a way of spreading the message further. We've managed to have a county secretary who's doing the minutes from France. These are the things that we can use to our advantage, and something positive that's come out of COVID in that we can now communicate across the county without having to move from our front rooms. Environmentally wise, time wise, efficiency wise, that's all a positive. And in terms of continuing that good work, we've appointed a digital growth lead. Elliot's done a successful and fantastic job in terms of setting up today, sending out minutes, sending out information, streaming this live, and that's kind of the thing we want to encourage and continue. Not only that, but we're giving a role of increasing that in terms of communication, and also supporting sections in terms of coming up with digital growth and digital programme that means that we can keep our young people engaged even if they're not face-to-face scouting. So then on to the next pillar in terms of people. Our people, I think this one is the most important. We need people who are well trained and supported and motivated. And I know at the minute it's difficult. It's difficult with COVID, it's difficult with the things that are being asked. It's difficult that we're asking people to work in a way that they've never worked before. And we're all starting from blank pieces of paper. And in that case, we need to try and look at supporting our leaders to be able to keep scouting alive and keep scouting thriving across 2021 and beyond. So what do we need in terms of well-trained? It's back to that professional volunteering and that professional expectations. When our parents and our community hand over our young people at our Scout headquarters to our leaders, they expect leaders who are well trained, who are safe and can deliver a safe programme. And how do we prove that, and how do we show that, and how do we deliver that? Well, it's through making sure that we keep our training up to date in terms of compliance, in terms of safeguarding and safety. And I'm sure you've all been sick and tired of the emails and the information that keeps coming down saying, please ensure you've done your safeguarding training, please ensure you've done your safety training. It's important. It's important that we can show and that we know that we are a safe organisation that looks after our people, both our adults and our young people. And for that I've got to say thank you, because in January we were a long way from being compliant. We were at 40% of the organisation weren't in date in terms of safety and safeguarding. That, as of sort of late August and into September, is now into the 20s. I'd like to see that drop into single figures, because it's one of the things that I believe passionately about that is not open to negotiation. We have to have leaders and exec members who are trained in safety and safeguarding so that we can keep our young people safe. What else do we need? Well, in terms of better supported, we're a small county. We're a small county with big ideas, but to deliver those big ideas, we need the support. And we kind of look a bit like this at the minute. We've got lots of groups, lots of districts, all trying to do the same thing and go in the same way. But those districts and those groups are all of those minibuses, and every minibus needs a driver, and every minibus needs a treasurer to pay and raise the money to keep that minibus going, and everyone needs logistical support and support to do it. And we don't have enough adults to be able to keep all of those minibuses on the road and running. And that's where we need to look at how we can work smarter, not harder. So it's in terms of our county, the strapline would be We want less minibuses and more luxury coaches. Why have I come across this? I haven't just thought of this from nowhere. So I looked at around the region, and when you look at our figures, we've got 5 districts and 37 groups. The next smallest is 7 districts, but with 106 groups. So they've got 2 more districts, but nearly 3 times the amount of groups that we've got. We can't keep going in terms of small districts trying to fill lots of positions. And so we need to think about how we can do it effectively. Some other key statistics we've got. In the 36 groups that we've got in the county, we've got some groups that are bigger than districts, and that doesn't make sense. We need to look at that, and we need to work on how we can make that more effective. We've got 6 groups that don't have a GSL, and they're going to struggle to run without an effective GSL. We've got 24 groups that don't have a chair, a treasurer and a secretary. And again, how are those leaders managing that, and how are they getting the support that they need to run those groups without a chair, a treasurer and a secretary to help them? And we've got 29 sections with less than 12 members. That's 11 beavers, 7 cubs and 11 scouts. So in terms of that, we need to look at how we can restructure to make Cleveland sustainable, because those numbers and those facts and figures do not make us sustainable. If we were a company, if we were a retail organisation, if we were, Asda, Sainsbury's, those numbers do not add up. They don't work. So how can we do it that we can be successful and fill those roles effectively? So I've looked at the county and what the county can do, and I've started by looking at that county level wide. So we've restructured the county, and I've got Karen and Ian as deputies. But when I looked at the county directory, there were 9 ACCs, and the county directory was 4 pages long. When we're the 4th smallest county, that was too many roles. Too many county roles mean that those people can't help in the districts or can't help at group level, because they don't have the time and the capacity. Because let's remember, this is not our full-time job, this is our volunteering role. So we want this to be something that is manageable and sustainable. So what have we done? Well, I've looked at taking that down to more manageable roles. And we're looking at an ACC people, and that will be about training and development, and looking at running the county training team, and looking at motivating our adults, and looking at our adult journey. I've then looked at 3 ACCs for our programme, and this will be where they replace sections. So we've got 1 ACC who would look at hedgehogs and beavers, because hedgehogs it will be something that will be introduced. It's just been paused whilst COVID is on. But let's get ahead. Let's start to look at which sections want a hedgehogs section, which group wants hedgehogs. How can we look at that? Let's look at starting to develop a programme now to move us forward. We've got another ACC for Cubs and Scouts, and 1 for Explorers and Network. They'll not only look at top awards, but they'll also look at those transition points to prevent our young people from slipping through the net when they transition from one section to another. We've got Elliot as ACC Perception, we've already discussed that, and then we've got our activities section as well, that will look at the activities and how we deliver activities to get more young people involved in those sections and in those activities. So this is the important bit, and this is the bit where we need to think carefully, and which is why I'm discussing this now. We need to look at the roles that I'm asking people to do, and I need to look at a reduction in those management roles, because we don't have enough adult leaders who can do those roles successfully in the time that we want them to do it, and in the time that is given in a voluntary role. Because at the minute, we've got 5 DCs, 5 district chairs, treasurers, secretaries and appointments panels, all to be filled. And those are difficult positions, those are important positions that we need to get the right people in doing the right roles. And at the minute, we want those positions to be filled. So at the minute, what I want is to reduce the number of drivers we need and get those people who are the right people at the right places. So we need to change, because no change is not really a viable option, otherwise we won't be successful and maintain Cleveland as a county. So what are we looking at? Well, at the minute I'm going to shortly put out a survey to gather feedback and information as to what we can do to move forward. But this is with some of the options that we're thinking about. Number one is to go to a small county completely and go into no districts. As I've said before, we're the 4th smallest county in the country. 2 of the 3 below us operate with no districts and operate as a county. What could we do for 2 districts? 2 districts we would swap and change into 2 districts, one north of the river and one south of the river, and operate as Cleveland North and Cleveland South. This is my preferred option. I think that would mean we get 2 really, really strong districts with 2 really strong execs. We could go to 3 districts and go for north, south and a central district, but 5 districts divided into 3 does not divide well. It doesn't divide equally in terms of geographically or in numbers. We'd have to completely restructure all the districts altogether, and that would be a difficult and complicated move. And the next option would be to run for 4 districts and sort them kind of by local authority area, 2 above the river and 2 below the river in terms of round those local authority positions. For me, the second one, in terms of 2 districts, north and south, is the best one. Why? Because it allows us to get right people on the right seat on the right bus. We get people who want to do those roles, and it releases other people to do the roles they want to do. Because how many people, we've all been at group AGMs and a group or district AGMs where we've looked around and said, we don't have a treasurer, who can we do, who will nominate to be treasurer? And then it's the one person who puts their hand up because they know that they have to do it. And we want people who want to do those roles and are really good at doing those roles. That person who put their hand up has a role, but it might not be that one. They might have really some other real good skills that we can use them elsewhere. But whilst we've got to try and find lots of five district commissioners and 5 execs to fill, it means that we struggle to get the right people in the right place. And so we're looking at a professional driven coaches where we've got real quality people doing real quality jobs, and the people who want to do those jobs and can do it successfully, and everybody is doing one role rather than 3, 4 and 5, which then releases people to do programme and to do all those other things that we've suggested. So in terms of questions, what I'm suggesting is that week after next I'm going to hold some question and answer sessions, because I'm very well aware that I've given lots of people lots of information and they haven't got a chance to come back to me. And had we been meeting face to face, this would have been where we'd have asked questions. So after next week, I'll send out some meetings and invite people to join to ask those questions, because I know lots of people will have lots of questions. Earlier on in the week, I spoke to the chairs and to the DCs and to all the ACCs and presented with them, and they've already come back to me with lots of questions about how it affects district and county. So I'd like to give people the opportunity to ask those questions, because what I want is a really strong county that moves forward. We've got a really strong history, and I want us to move forward and be a really, really successful county. We are at the minute, but we need to look forward as to how we can do that in the coming years. So that kind of points to what my vision for the coming years will be for Cleveland Scouts. So thank you very much, and I hand back over to Frank for final points.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, final few words from me before we officially close the AGM. First of all, I'd like you to think seriously about Andy's presentation and how we can contribute to bringing more scouting to more people in Cleveland. I'd like to thank Elliot for his work on putting this on as the first time that we've ever done this in this format, obviously. I'd like to thank Ian and Sue for their input in preparing everything for the AGM. And finally, I'd like to thank all of yourselves for joining in with this meeting and the input that you have put in prior to this meeting on the electronic voting. And the final words from myself are, let's work together to increase and improve scouting in Cleveland. Stay safe.